So for this week, we're going to talk about forming an LLC, whether you should or whether you should just wait on it. So this week, we're actually going to be talking about LLCs, the pros and the cons, and why this may be a good idea for your business and when circumstances are that maybe you don't need it. Yeah. The first question, of course, is what is an LLC? So technically, an LLC is a legal entity that you're setting up with your state. It's not something that the IRS recognizes as an entity. One of the things I'm going to be doing a little bit differently with this presentation going forward is I'm going to just provide you with the summary, but you'll have the information right in front of you on my slides. The question, of course, is how is an LLC taxed? Well, really, an LLC isn't taxed in a way that is specifically because you are an LLC. Again, an LLC is a state designated entity. It is not a federal entity. So usually when you have a LLC, the first question is how many members do you have? If you only have one member, yourself, the IRS really sees you as a disregarded entity. Now, you still have that limited liability protection and it's separate from your personal assets. However, when you're filing your tax return, you are actually filing just as you had when you were a sole proprietor. You'll be doing a Schedule C in all the forms just as you did before you became an LLC. There's a question on whether or not, then there is the question that there is more than one member. It could be you and your spouse. It can be you and a fellow groomer that decided to partner together. And if you don't go any further than just telling the IRS that you are getting an EIN for a multi-membered LLC, the IRS is going to send you a letter that says that you will be treated as a partnership in which you will be required to file the Form 1065. If, however, you decide to do the S-Corp election, then that can get you out of the 1065 and you would file the 1120S for the S-Corp. And you can also do that as a single member LLC. So just remember that important too is the deadlines to file if you're a single member LLC and you didn't do the S-Corp election is still April 15th. Just like I said, it's done on your personal tax return and the deadline to file is either April 15th or at least put in an extension by April 15th and then you have 6 more months where you have time to file. When you are a multi-member LLC, however, and you have to do either a partnership or you do the election to be an S-Corp, you have a separate tax return that has to be filed or extended by March 15th. There is one caveat. If you are partners with your spouse and it is just the two of you and you live in a community property state, then you can actually file a Schedule C, and then what happens is your net income from the Schedule C is split 50-50 for each of you, and you would be considered a qualified joint venture. But this can only be done if you are in a community property state. So you definitely want to talk with a tax professional to get more details about that. You want to be able to do that right so that you don't get that letter from the IRS that says, where is your 1065? You live in a state that does not have community property issues. You have to do the 1065. Now again, you can, as both of these, you can do the election. If you're going to do the election for the S-Corp, and I'm going to be covering S-Corps next week, so definitely come in and I will give you more information. But in order to be covered by January 1st, you actually have to do the election by March 15th of that year, and you have to have the LLC in effect as of January 1st. Otherwise, it only can go back 75 days. So there's definitely some advantages by doing a LLC, and we're going to take a look at some of the pros going forward. So this is a great way for you if you have personal assets. You have your home, you have money in the bank, etc. This can help protect those personal assets from any business liabilities. So if you have an LLC and you are properly separating out your personal from your business and you are sued by that vendor, the vendor can really only come for your business assets, not your personal assets. Now, of course, that means that you don't forget about getting other insurance as well. You want to have liability insurance. One of the first things that a attorney for the other side is going to do is they are going to look to see if there's any commingling. So that's why you want to have liability insurance, because that at least will cover you and protect you versus that veil of the LLC to be pierced and you having your home or whatever else being part of this suit. Another thing is that tax flexibility. And what I mean by tax flexibility is that if you have that LLC, you can elect to do an S corp. And that will enable you to save taxes, because whereby a proprietorship or a partnership, the members of a partnership, they have to pay self-employment taxes on their net income. And it isn't a business deduction. But when you are an S corp, the income that when you're an S corp, the employment expenses, the Social Security, the Medicare, that is paid, which would have been for self-employment tax, that is covered as a business expense. So when you're filing your tax return as an S corp, you won't have that self-employment tax. And that's usually what is the largest part of a sole proprietor or partnership's tax cost. And another pro is the credibility. That LLC does kind of signal to your clients that you are having a professional business. You are on board. To them, that's what they are looking at. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the cons of forming an LLC for your business. And I would like to preface this to say that if you are just starting your business, that if it's only you, you really have no assets, you're not planning to hire any employees, don't rush into doing the LLC. You will be able to get that done. I would definitely work with a tax advisor to help you to look at both sides. There's no reason why every small business should go right for the LLC. I see that sometimes too much, and depending on what state you are in, you can actually find that becomes more costly than it needs to be as you are building up your business. Of course, the first con is it's setting up the LLC. That can be quite expensive. You are having legal fees, setup fees, you have the paperwork. You are going to have to, depending on your state, do an annual report. You may have to do something with when you file your taxes, there may be an additional fee that you're paying directly to the state to have that LLC, and it's going to be more expensive. And then you also, because the LLC, you want to keep your account where you're not commingling personal and business, because the last thing you want is to have that commingled. Possibly maybe you have a grooming van and you're not able to make the payments, and the company that sold you the grooming van or the bank is going to want that money back. They may sue you. And if they see that you are not separating it appropriately, then it's going to be very costly. It's going to be costly because it can attach to your personal assets, and you may also have legal fees to represent you in court. So that's one thing you definitely want to keep in mind. If you make that decision, I have an LLC, you want to make sure that you keep things separate. Pretty much just continues with that. It was kind of what I had. It's just two of the same thing. There are higher costs. And if you are doing the S Corp election, once you have the LLC, you really want to work with a bookkeeper, someone professional, accountant, whatever else, so that they can provide you with the necessary financial statements so your tax returns can be filed accurately. And these are things that could be called upon. My feeling is that when you are going this LLC route, you want to really budget that from 3 to 5% of your gross receipts should be allocated to pay for these expenses. And these expenses go to payroll in the sense of hiring a payroll company, fees. It will go towards bookkeeping, and it goes towards tax preparation costs. 3 to 5% is not that high, but of course it does depend on what stage you are in your business. It can actually be a little bit higher if you are a brand new business, and that's again why I suggest don't jump into an LLC right off the bat. The other is the ongoing compliance. You'll have to do certain things depending on your state. Some states, like California, they have a minimum $800 if you have an LLC that you have to pay every year. Also, you are going to have to update your any changes. I live in Florida, and every year by May 1st, I have to do a annual report, and pretty much I have to go in there and I have to let them know if there are any changes. And a big thing right now is that if you have an LLC, you are required to report that to FinCEN, which is the criminal arm of the U.S. Treasury. And what they are looking for is laundering. So they want to know if you have an LLC, who your members are. And if you've already been watching some of my videos, you know that I put one in regarding the beneficial owner information report. If you haven't, I will have this as part of my end screen so that you can watch it along with a easy way for you to file on your own. If you are a single member, or there's only one you and one other member of the LLC, you can do this on your own without having to hire anyone to do this. As I said, having an LLC has its pros and cons. For me, one of the pros of having the LLC was definitely being able to do the S Corp election, which actually helped me save on taxes. But there's also a lot more expenses that you have to be aware of, a lot more things that you may have to report, and you don't want to just jump into an LLC without talking to somebody that can give you more information. Again, I would like to remind you to please like this video if you feel that this has helped. Share this video with another pet grooming business that maybe, or even just a grooming friend that is thinking about starting their business, so that they can understand a little bit more about LLCs. Comment on this video or make any suggestions for future videos, different subjects that you would like for me to cover. And if you can, please subscribe, and this way you will get notified when I have a new video released. Just a reminder to file your beneficial owner information report. And as a reminder, these are your deadlines. So if you set up your LLC prior to January 1st of 2024, you actually have until December 31st of 2024 to do your BOI reporting. If you're setting up in 2024, you have 90 days from the date that the state states that you are an LLC. And coming up next year, you'll only have 30 days if you do an LLC next year. There are penalties if you don't do it by these dates, so I do not want that to happen to any of you. Also, if you have any changes, especially if you have changes in membership, where maybe one member leaves the LLC or another one comes in, if there's a change in address, information like that, you want to get that done within the 30 days that that action has occurred.